Hi, I'm John, Director and Head Instructor at Driving in New Plymouth. Today we're going to cover off the pre-trip vehicle inspection. There's a few reasons why we should do that. We're going to cover all those off today. The main reasons for us really are safety, making sure we're safe enough and the vehicle's safe enough to drive, and obviously covering off the legal requirements to us, making sure that our vehicle is up to roadworthiness and we can legally drive it on the road. We're going to have a walk around and do things like fluids, check our lights, we're going to check our tyres, we're going to check things like our labels. We're going to check our in-cab, making sure that our cab is actually fit for purpose and safe to drive. And lastly, we're going to actually look at us and make sure us as a driver in the state we can drive in, as in we're not too tired, we are alert, and things like if you've had a big night the night before, it may be time to get someone else to do the driving for you. So stick with us, it doesn't take very long, it's something we should do every day. So the first thing we need to do is make sure our vehicle's safe and legal for a start. So obviously the key things for us to check are our warrant of fitness, or COF, certificate of fitness if we're in the truck or a commercial vehicle, and obviously our rego, and if it's a diesel vehicle, things like our RUC label. So we need to make sure our WOF is current, our rego's current, and our RUC are in credit, and then we know we're legally covered to drive. So at Drive It, all the teaching we do starts with all our vehicle checks. We start at the front and we work our way around the vehicle. It doesn't matter whether you go clockwise, anti-clockwise, you'll get in your own little pattern. We do it from the front for various reasons, but the main one is we know we're starting somewhere, we do all our checks, and we finish somewhere. That way you can't miss anything. First thing to do for us is we're going to check the fluids. Number one, clean rag, off the bonnet. Nice and simple. All we're going to do is we're going to check oil. That's all good. Should be on the dipstick in between either the high and low or the two dot sort of indicators. Then we're going to check our coolant and our header tank here. Nice and simple. This one's just got a low and high, and we're just going to make sure we're as close to the high as possible. You'll get used to your own vehicle. If things aren't right between checks, as in it's using fluid or the indicator levels are getting lower, then you're going to know something's wrong and it might be time for further investigation. So once we check our fluids, normally we'd say that we start the vehicle up then. Things like a truck obviously needs to build up, one, temperature, and two, it needs to build up air pressure. But even just for a car or a ute or a van, it's good habit to be into to warm the vehicle up, let some ambient temperature get in there before we drive off anyway. So once we've done that, then we'd work our way in and we'd check our lights. We won't start the ute up today because it's going to overpower the video with the noise, but we will just do a practical check by turning the key on. Easy way to do it is turn your hazard lights on. So we've got our headlights working nicely and our hazard lights are working as well. Not always the perfect test for our indicators, but if the hazard lights are going, our indicators in theory should go. There will be some exceptions to that. As a general rule of thumb, it's a good test. Then we head around the back. Once we're around here, again, hazard lights are working, or our indicator bulbs are working, our marker lights are working, our number plate lights working. Last thing to do is check our brake pedal, our brake lights as well, sorry. So the brake lights themselves, hard if you're on your own. Best thing to do, back it up against a shed wall or a hedge or somewhere where there's low light, and if you activate the pedal, you'll see the reflection of the red in the hedge or the wall that you're up against, or get a spotter. One of the last things to check, and a pretty important thing to check, is going to be our tyres. So the legal requirements are we have at least 1.5 millimeters of tread depth, but it's an absolute minimum. We should have a lot more than that. Nice and easy on these ones, big chunky sort of four-wheel drive tyres. What you need to make sure is we've actually got tread depth here. You can get a key indicator from places like AA or VTNZ. They're a nice little wheel that have a tread depth on them. Or you can use a key or something, just a pen even potentially, just to poke inside the tread of your tyre. Main thing to check is not just to check from the outside. We should check all the way in, because if the wheel alignment's out or something's gone wrong, then the inside tyre could be smooth. Easy on an open space here, but in a car that might be quite hard to spot. So you check all the way in a couple of places around the tyre. That one's fine. We'll work our way around the vehicle. Same with the back tyre. Again, really visible on a ute like this, it's fine. But if it's a car, you may have to put your hand up inside the guard and physically check inside that tread. Those two are good. Around the other side. So nice and easy here again. Just a point to remember, if we're talking about dual wheel tyres, as in a twin tyre set, you may have stones stuck in between here. So if you can't see, you may have to physically check in here. You don't want that stone to get in there. If that stone gets in, rides around with your tyres as it goes, it'll bury itself inside your tyres and it'll eventually chafe and rub, and the point that the tyre might blow up or puncture. So we just check that as well. If it's a truck, you can normally check them from the back of the truck. They're normally high enough off the ground. But you may have to get your hands dirty. Likewise, front tyre, remembering to go on the inside in case the alignment's out. We're good to go. So one of the last things for us to check is actually in cab. We want to make sure that the inside of the cab is actually fit for purpose and it's safe to drive. There's nothing worse than there being a whole lot of rubbish or distractions inside the cab that are going to cause us any grief or potentially make us have an accident, which is what we don't want. What we do is a simple floor well check, making sure that if there's nothing on the floor, there's nothing that's going to fall into the floor. So you check your doors, make sure there's no water bottles, rags, gloves, that kind of thing that could, as we drive, could shift and jump into the floor well. So it should be nice and clean. So lastly, and probably should be firstly, is our driver. We need to make sure that before we even turn the key on our vehicle, that we as drivers are safe enough to drive. Things like tiredness, alertness, and making sure we've considered things like if we've had a big night or we've had a big weekend of sport, that we're actually able to drive. If not, there's no shame in asking somebody else to do the driving for us. It may be a safer option, but we have a responsibility to make sure that we are actually able to drive the car safely and get from point A to point B or wherever we're going from there. Thanks heaps for tuning in. Hope you found some useful information through this walk around. It is something we should be doing every day. It doesn't take very long. As you can see, combined it probably takes 30 seconds or a minute, and we know we're safe to drive and we're not putting anybody else at risk. And that's what it's all about. We should be out on the road safely and making ourselves safe and everyone else around us safe as well. Thanks for tuning in. Cheers.